Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Choda with Ignition Time, and in this important video, I'll share something that the US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin revealed today in an interview with CNBC. He specifically said that he was concerned that the Democrats were going to avoid any deal that would make the president look good. In fact, Steven Mnuchin's exact words were, I think that there is a compromise if the speaker is willing to move forward with further stimulus. But he said, and I quote, I'm somewhat concerned that she's afraid that any deal will be good for the president. So what the US Treasury Secretary, what the White House is saying is that the Democrats simply don't want to do any deal because any deal will make the president look good weeks before an election. And for the US Treasury Secretary, for the White House to essentially say that out in the open on an interview is indeed something that is newsworthy. So I'll show you a clip of the US Treasury Secretary saying that in addition, I'll also share some important metrics, some important priorities that the US Treasury Secretary revealed, the state of the economic recovery, and exactly where things stand right now and whether we are likely to see any further stimulus. So let's jump right in. My name is Dr. Nitin Choda with Ignition Time. If you don't know anything about me, check out my introductory video. I have the fortune, the honor, the privilege of living the American dream. I really appreciate you watching, and I want to help you live your American dream. And that's why our channel is one of the fastest growing channels on YouTube in the world of politics and current affairs, in personal finance and stimulus news and unemployment benefits. With that being said, let's jump right in and see what the US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin had to say. So this is what the interviewer asked him. He was asked on CNBC, can you go back to Speaker Pelosi and get past ideological differences? Because it looks like with the way things are right now, because there are probably legitimate issues on both sides, it looks like we, the people, are going to get nothing at this point. And here's how Steven Mnuchin responded. Keep in mind, he's a US Treasury Secretary. He's the key negotiator. He's one of the key negotiators with White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows on behalf of the White House, on behalf of the administration, on behalf of President Trump, when it comes to negotiating with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, who represent the House Democrats. So he said, I think there is a compromise if the speaker is willing to move forward. I'm somewhat concerned that she's afraid that any deal will be good for the president. And obviously we have politics that is getting in the way. Now, this is, this is the state of affairs in the country right now. And that's where we are. He said the speaker and I will be working on the CR this week. The CR is the continuing resolution. It is the attempt to avoid a government shutdown, to make sure that the government continues to remain funded past the fiscal deadline of September 30th. He said this is obviously a priority to make sure that we don't shut down the government. So you can see that the emphasis has shifted away from stimulus and away from the extension of unemployment benefits, because now the lost wages assistance program money is running out, towards the CR, the continuing resolution, in an effort to prevent a government shutdown. Let's roll the tape and let's see exactly what the US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin had to say. Let's watch.
Seem to be, unlike maybe some of the administration, the rest of the Trump administration, you seem to be able to go back to Speaker Pelosi and I don't know, move beyond ideological differences. But I mean, are you frustrated that you're throwing out the bathwater with the baby on some of these things? Do you understand where they're coming from and think they have legitimate issues on the other side? Because there's many Americans saying, $300 billion is better than nothing, and it looks like we're going to get nothing at this point.
Well, I'm not going to speculate on whether we're going to get something or not. I think there is a compromise if the speaker is willing to move forward. I am somewhat concerned that she's afraid that any deal will be good for the president. And obviously, we have politics that are getting in the way. But let me also just say the speaker and I will be working on the CR this week, which is obviously a priority for us to make sure that we don't shut down the government.
So in the next segment of the interview, he was specifically asked by CNBC, where do you think the economy stands right now? Are we seeing a V-shaped recovery? What is the status of the economic recovery? And this is what the US Treasury Secretary said. He said this is an economic scenario that nobody has ever seen, because this is a scenario where we close down the entire US economy. Now, I just want to be clear. The president didn't officially close down the entire US economy. Different states approached it in different ways. So the entire US economy was not officially closed down at any point in time. So I do think it's interesting that the US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says that. So he also said, as we've reopened the economy, you've seen an enormous rebound. His words. He said we're down to 8.4% unemployment. people thought we were going to have as high as 25% unemployment. Again, I think it's interesting he says that because 8.4% unemployment is a lot. Where we were at right around 3% unemployment right before the pandemic hit. 8.4% unemployment is still very significant, not to mention the fact that some individuals have lost their jobs forever. So the real economic scenario is actually a K-shaped recovery. It's not truly a V-shaped recovery, but I do think it's interesting that the US Treasury Secretary has his point of view, his talking points, if you will. He said, so clearly we are having a great rebound. We're going to have a very strong third quarter. That's what the US Treasury Secretary said. He also said there are areas of the economy, particularly the travel area, entertainment, hotels, small businesses, restaurants, that are going to need more work. He is right about that. The industries that have been impacted the most as a result of this pandemic are leisure, travel, hospitality, entertainment. These are the industries that have been impacted the most, that have the low wage earners and the middle income earners. Many of these individuals have lost their jobs permanently. I see our subscribers comments that are individuals who've been managers in stores. I read a comment from an individual who was a manager in a Pier 1 store, and that store has shut down. So he had been a manager for 20 years. So there are millions of stories like this, and this is the real pain. These are the individuals that need to be supported at a time like this. Let's roll the tape and see exactly what the US Treasury Secretary had to say about the nature of the economic recovery. Let's watch.
Where do you think the economy stands right now? Would you call it a V shape? Would you call it a Nike swoosh? Would you call it a check mark? We've seen, obviously, the unemployment rate fall below 10%, but is the second derivative slowing without additional help, or is it doing pretty well and we don't even need additional help?
Well, as I said before, this is an economic scenario that nobody's ever seen, because this is a scenario where we close down the entire U.S. economy to combat this terrible COVID-19. And as we've reopened the economy, you've seen an enormous rebound. So the fact that we're down to 8.4% unemployment, people thought we were going to have as high as 25% unemployment. So clearly we are having a great rebound. We're going to have a very strong third quarter. But there is also clearly areas of the economy, particularly the travel area, entertainment, hotels, small businesses, restaurants, that are going to need more work. And the president and I are going to continue to fight for those parts of the economy.
Now, in the final segment of the interview, the US Treasury Secretary was specifically asked about whether this would have a dangerous impact on the federal debt. Remember, the federal government is almost $25 trillion in debt, the federal deficit. And he said, and I quote, now is not the time to worry about reducing the federal deficit. And he said the CARES Act and the 13.3 facilities have saved the economy. I will tell you what the 13.3 facilities are. They essentially credit and lending programs, unprecedented credit and lending programs, including the Paycheck Protection Program, including the Main Street Lending Program that were instituted as a result of the CARES Act. And these were all good measures. These helped a lot of people. Was there fraud and abuse? Yes, there was. But there's going to be waste in any scenario. So the measures that were taken in March did indeed blunt some of the economic impact. But there are individuals who are being left behind, unfortunately, and those who need help the most should get it. I believe that, and I'm hoping that that still happens. So here's what he was asked, the US Treasury Secretary. He was asked, there's a lot of worry that Wall Street is being helped, meaning the stock market is seeing all-time highs, but the fixed income retirees, staying at zero interest rates forever. In other words, if interest rates are low, that props up the stock market, that makes money cheaper to borrow. But then that also means that fixed income retirees who are depending on their money earning some sort of a return are now not going to get a return unless they take risky bets in the stock market. So what happens to them? And he was also asked, do you see a way out of this for the next administration? And I think Steven Mnuchin's response was very telling. He said, now is not the time to worry about shrinking the deficit or shrinking the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. He said there was a time when they were shrinking the balance sheet and coming back to normal. And he actually said something that was very interesting. He said that the good news is that this gave them a lot of room to increase the balance sheet, which they did. So what was happening, if my viewers and subscribers remembers, before the pandemic hit, the Federal Reserve was gradually raising interest rates. As soon as the pandemic hit, the Federal Reserve in one swoop dropped the interest rates down to zero, near zero. And so what the US Treasury Secretary is talking about is that the Federal Reserve had room to do that because they had been raising interest rates. And some would speculate that they've run out of ammunition right now. But the Federal Reserve is now doing more things that they had, originally were not part of their original mandate. He said, both the monetary policy working with fiscal policy and what we were able to get done in an unprecedented way with Congress is the reason why the economy is doing better. That part is correct because there were big things done as a result of the CARES Act that helped blunt the economic recovery. And he said something else that was crucial. He said, had we not passed the $3 trillion bill and the Fed not acted in the way they've done, including the various different 13-3 facilities we've worked on together, you would see a very, very different economic scenario right now. In other words, if those measures had not been enacted in March or April, then the economy would be in a much, much worse state. Now, keep in mind, a lot of the money that was allocated for these measures has not yet been spent. But guys, hindsight is 2020. When these measures were created, there was a lot of fanfare. There was a lot of expectation that it would help. And so, the government probably overshot on some things and didn't do enough on other things. And that would have been the case with any administration. For me, remember, it's not about the red or the blue. It's about the red, white, and blue. I'm not Democrat. I'm not Republican. I'm American. So this is a tough situation. It's an impossible situation. I'll tell you really quick about what these 13-3 facilities are. But first, let's take a look at what the U.S. Treasury Secretary said. Let's roll the tape and see what he had to say about all the measures that were taken in the past and about the extent of the economic recovery and where we are heading right now. Let's roll the tape.
From what we see right now, there's a lot of worry that while Wall Street is being helped, the people on fixed income, retirees, staying at zero for forever has consequences. Do you see a way out of this for the next administration, whichever it might be?
Well, let me just say, I speak to Chair Powell almost every day, so I want to be careful in what I say about Fed actions. But now is not the time to worry about shrinking the deficit or shrinking the Fed balance sheet. There was a time where the Fed was shrinking the balance sheet and coming back to normal. The good news is that gave them a lot of room to increase the balance sheet, which they did. And I think both the monetary policy working with fiscal policy and what we were able to get done in an unprecedented way with Congress is the reason why the economy is doing better. I think had we not passed the $3 trillion deal and had the Fed not acted in the way they've done, including the various different 13-3 facilities we've worked on together, I think you'd see a very, very different economic scenario right now.
So speaking of all the lending facilities, you'll see this chart on your screen, which is a list of the various lending facilities that were launched by the government as a direct result of the pandemic. You'll see that we have the Paycheck Protection Program, we have the Main Street Lending Program, and we have other programs that didn't receive as much press, but there were many programs, including the Municipal Liquidity Facility, the Term Asset-Backed Securities Loan Facility, the Secondary Market Corporate Credit Facility, and so on and so forth. Many of these were new as a result of the pandemic. They were designed to make sure that there was enough liquidity in the market, there was enough cash flowing through the market, there would not be essentially money would keep flowing so that people would continue buying, people would continue selling, people would continue borrowing, and people would continue lending across the entire financial spectrum. Something like this has never ever been done before, and these are the 13-3 facilities. And again, you'll see all the 13-3 facilities on your screen. There are many of them, and some of them you might not even have heard of. And these were facilities designed to help make sure that banks, help make sure that lending institutions, large companies were essentially continuing to, where the money was continuing to flow. Now you, as my viewer subscriber, you've been concerned, rightly so, about the stimulus checks, about the unemployment benefits, but the true nature of the actual fiscal support, the actual economic support that the government has provided is indeed very massive. And a lot of big companies, big corporations, big banks did indeed get that support. So money would then flow through to every single person in the chain. The way the government approached it is they tried to maintain liquidity at the top so that that liquidity would trickle down to those at the bottom. But unfortunately, because of the uneven nature of this recovery, because this is a K-shaped recovery, the individuals who need help the most, many of them are indeed getting left behind. And I'm going to try through my channel to provide you with solutions as best as I can. So let me know in the comments section below what you thought of all the measures the government has taken, what you think about their current economic outlook, and more importantly, what do you think about what US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said about the politics that are potentially holding back further stimulus. Let me know about everything that you feel the government has done. Let me know if you feel they could have done more, and let me know if you feel politics is indeed getting in the way in addition to the fundamental ideological differences that exist between both parties. Thank you so much, everybody. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda. If you don't know anything about me, check out my introductory video. I have the fortune, the honor, the privilege of living the American dream. I will never get tired of saying that. I'm a beneficiary of American exceptionalism. I am a symbol of the greatness of America, and I want to help you live your American dream if you give me the opportunity. And I do believe you can live the American dream, and I will lead you there. And hopefully you can do even better than I did. Our Instagram handle is ignition_time. That's ignition_time. So make sure to follow us on Instagram for exclusive content on Instagram. Please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications for instant updates going forward. Now, sometimes YouTube does not send out notifications, so bookmark our channel, youtube.com/ignition_time. Again, that's youtube.com/ignition_time. This way you'll never miss a single video from our channel. Again, you can just visit our homepage and you can watch all the videos, even if YouTube does not send out notifications. Now, you can also get email alerts from us. Go to ignitiontime.com/alerts. That's ignitiontime.com/alerts. So you can get email alerts from us going forward. You can also get your cell phone out, send a text message with the word ignition or with the word time to 70,000. That's 70000. And you can get on our SMS list. Now, you can opt out of our SMS list or our email list at any point in time. Remember, we release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. So make sure you please click like, subscribe, enable notifications. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.